Our next speaker is a gentleman by the name of Gareth Whittaker. He's a CEO of T&W. And when he wrote me his insight, I thought, like, this man is such a storyteller. He wrote, basically, Gareth has two dogs, Ernie Els and Polly Shorts. They're brown and yellow Labradors. Sometimes he worries that he loves his dogs more than his wife and two kids, which is odd, maybe even concerning. So says Gareth that dogs love despite nonsense and definitely don't care if this talk is any good or not. You see, even as this talk completely bombs today, which has apparently worried him for quite a few weeks, he will go home tonight and Ernie will give him a kiss and Polly a cuddle. So this is fascinating. So, because it's so written like a true storyteller. So Gareth will be talking about a story. And yeah, I'm really excited about this talk. So welcome to the stage, Gareth.
It is entirely possible, you see, to begin a story in the middle. Right here, under lights, on a red rug, with two tortoises at your side at 2:45, 2:23, on a Thursday. Now, this is not the beginning of my story, obviously, or necessarily the beginning of the story that I would have chosen for us, but it is a beginning, and all good stories need one, so this will be ours. I was invited here today, you see, to talk about stories and how you can use them to affect your bottom line. I have on occasion, does anyone have a clicker for me? Thank you. I have on occasion been called the storyteller, which, to be honest, feels a little grandiose when you compare me to the greats. In fact, it makes me feel fucking silly. That said, I'm good with it because I love stories. I love stories. And what I'd like to do today is talk to you about that love. As I do, I'll explore how stories make us more human. They make us more human by letting us do the most human of things, feel. And in so doing, I'll discuss, hopefully, what they can do for our brands. I might, towards the end, because all stories have one of those too, reveal a revenue-generating secret or formula and perhaps explain why I've brought this red rug and these two small tortoises on stage with me. But before I get to that, any storyteller worth their salt knows that one of the great rules of storytelling is to make your audience care. And in order for me to do that, I think I better tell you a little bit about myself. I think for me, the love of storytelling all started with a book. No shit, buddy, you're thinking. All of our love of storytelling started with books, and that's certainly true for my two boys who have recently fallen in love with stories. But for me, storytelling didn't just start with a book. It started with this book. This is a book that my dad gave me for my 21st birthday. It is a book of letters. Oh, fuck. You're gonna have to pause the clock. It's a book of letters. 21 letters, to be exact. One written on each of my 21 birthdays from my dad to me. Cool, eh? It is my life story told through his eyes, and of course, one hell of a birthday present. He starts his first letter like this: Dear Gareth, you are 5 days old and due to come home tomorrow, and due to come home from the Royal Lancaster Infirmary tomorrow. I thought that in time to come, you might find it interesting to know a little bit about the world in which you arrived at 15:27 on Thursday, the 21st of December, 1978. He thought I'd find it interesting. Yeah, it's my life. It strikes me, and I'm going to take a moment if you don't mind. I've lost my notes here, so give me a sec. It strikes me how privileged I am to be born into a family with so much love. It strikes me how privileged I am to be born into a family where story was there from the very beginning. Give me a moment. Breathe. Dad goes on, I must say that breathe thing was beautiful. Dad goes on to tell the story about a TV show that him and Mum were watching in the hospital when I was born. And it was a show called This Is Your Life. And it featured Muhammad Ali as it told the story of his life, as he was reintroduced to people who had made an impact on him over his then 37 years. He describes, Dad does, about how Ali broke down in tears as he met his grade school teacher he hadn't seen in 20 years. And that's the stuff about stories that gets me going, the way they make us feel. Interestingly enough, for boxing fans in the room, yeah, I thought so, actually. Interestingly enough, 78 was the year in which Ali became the first three-time heavyweight champion of the world. Yet, it wasn't the stuff you'd expect that moved Ali. It was a lady who taught him at 6 years old that it was okay to dream big dreams. And maybe therein lies a lesson for us if we want to use stories to build our brands. Find the unexpected. Don't be scared of it. Look for it. It's the unexpected stuff that moves us. So 78, my life was just beginning, and stories were already all around. An interesting side note, my folks were in England when I was born, which you may have picked up. My dad was there studying at Lancaster University. He ends his very first letter like this. In about 9 months, we'll return to South Africa, a country of which you will become a part. But, and there are always buts with South Africa, it is a country fraught with problems and committed to a path that is manifestly unjust. I do not want you to be a part of that. Now, this theme and his personal struggle recurs through the letters until, of course, I turned 16 in 1994, when the struggle ended. His struggle, revealed in my life story, has always moved me. And I think therein lies another lesson. As brands, don't shy away from struggle. Don't shy away from the uncertainty. Actively look for it when you build your stories. It's the stuff that adds potency to them. It's where the power lives. So why tell you the story of this book? Well, for 2 reasons. Firstly, I want to share how good stories are at connecting us. You see, I learned when I first opened that book how good stories are at connecting us to others. For me, to my mom and dad, how good they are at connecting us to our past, and how good they are at giving our present more meaning. I learned too that we all have a story. Each of us. We can tell it if we want, or keep it to ourselves. We can use it. We can own it. You see, it's ours. To help others connect with us, to help others understand more of us. And I suppose that's the second reason I shared the story of the book with you. I wanted you to know a little bit more about me. They're good at helping with that, stories are. Are you using them to help people know more about your businesses and you? Stories are good at getting us to feel, too. Feelings. And feeling is a very powerful and very human thing. Now, the idea of storytelling and stories is certainly not new. The idea isn't new. The act isn't new. In fact, the results are certainly not new. The results, I'd suggest, are as old as being human itself. The results of telling stories are feelings. Sad, confused, excited, inspired. They leave us screaming, crying, horny, happy. It all kind of depends on the story you read, or the movie you watch, or write, or shoot. Whatever the story is, we know that they make us feel stuff. And it's the feeling that keeps me telling them. I get to tell stories of sport and goosebumps, of music and the way it makes you tap your foot on the floor. So stories make us feel. And that's all good for everyday Jill and Joe's watching movies or listening to music. But how can we as marketers use them? That's the second part of the chat. Because of the way stories make people feel, and remembering, of course, that when we market, we're marketing most of the time to people, stories have some magic in them, some marketing magic. But before I get to that, I think it's important to draw a distinction between story and story well told. The cat sat on the mat. It's a story. Not a particularly well told one. It lacks emotion. Its character, in this instance, the cat, is very one-dimensional, and its plot is shit. By the way, I've had a nickname since I was 13 years old. A boy named Seamus Graham, a stocky little Irishman, gave it to me. As I arrived at school on maybe Thursday morning, I don't know what day it was. As I arrived at school, I just had a new haircut, and Seamus looked at me, burst out laughing and said, "Dude, it looks like there's a cat sitting on your head." Ever since then, my friends have called me Cat. This is my mat. A story well told can do magical things. You see, a story has gravity. And as Einstein told us, gravity affects time. It bends it and it shapes it. And as many a cliched salesman will tell you, gravity, time, boys and girls, is money. When you're in the middle of a good story, the meaning of time disappears. It sucks you in. You no longer notice it. Done well, us marketers can pay for 30 seconds and live forever in the mind or in the heart. Imagine changing what the world thinks is possible in just 43.18 seconds.
400 meters, 3 of the 10 fastest athletes in history. Wayde van Niekerk on the outside, running blind in lane 8. So who's going to succumb to the adrenaline first? Van Niekerk is running blind on the outside. The South African now beginning to tire.
Come on.
He's pulling away. Century of history and 40. I can't believe it. He has obliterated Michael Johnson's record. The world champion is the Olympic champion and the world record holder. It's a performance to set the hairs on the back of your neck tingling. We've never seen anything like it.
In 43.18 seconds, a whole country held its breath, and a man redefined what is possible. Stories also transcend the space in which they occur. A great story doesn't just live on the page it's written, it jumps right off of it, into the lives, into the minds, and into the hearts of those that read it. Think about the story of our own Springbok rugby captain, Kolisi. His is a story that spans from grassroots rugby to international greatness. It inspires those who see it.
Pakamani kozakhala komagxaki naseNew Brighton kudala silindele lena yanamhlanje imbali usiya umzukulwana wethu kunyana wethu kumnina wethu umele thina sonke.
Don't for a minute think that that's a story that only lives on a rugby field. Shit, it isn't even a rugby story, it's a South African story about a boy who can. And the Sia story is one that lives right in the heart of every kid from a poor neighborhood who believes that he can be more. It transcends space. Story expands it, and it broadens our minds. Now, here I must say that I feel like I'm on a knife edge. And when I wrote this, I felt it was on a knife edge. Somewhere between sounding like a profound arsehole and telling you a hell of a lot of stuff that you know already. And so, in case I'm actually just stating the blindingly obvious to you, I better start to end the story. And I could end things just like that, you know, the way most stories end. But I fear I would leave you with too many questions and not enough answers. What the fuck is the deal with the carpet, and how does all of this apply to my bottom line? So before I go, the formula I promised in the beginning, the magical, mythical, mathematical formula that'll make you more money. Look, I'm sorry, there is no formula, but you knew that. Well, certainly there is no mathematical formula. Rugs and tortoises don't equal more money. And good storytelling has way too much magic in it to be turned to mathematics. What I can tell you, though, is this. The days of message without story are long gone. In story, as in life, there are, however, some things that we would do well to remember. And if we do, we may just nudge the bottom line number up. You see, it's all story. Marketing, finance, human resources, sales, it's all story when done well. It all has a beginning, a middle, and unfortunately for life, an end. And if you want me to listen, if you want me to engage, if you want me to act, please make me care. Make me care about your story. And as Pooh said to Piglet as they walked into the sunset, life is short, Piglet. We may as well tell great stories. I thank you.